Here we are
Here we are.
on Metamind's podcast, episode 4.
Episode 4, yep. That's what we're up to.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Feels like it's been a lifetime since the first one, hasn't it?
Mm.
So what are we talking about this week, Dan?
Today we are talking about social media and mental health.
Wonderful.
Very interesting topic.
Yeah, maybe not wonderful. But it is a very current topic, and it's kind of a trend that's overtaken, and it's just been we didn't even see it coming as humans. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit sick this week, as I'm sure you can possibly tell for all those viewers at home. But we're still doing it. So
still doing it.
This is a very important topic, and we feel the need to discuss it. So let's dive right into it, Dan.
Okay.
Why is social media and mental health such a relevant topic right now?
Well, I think in the world that we live in, of just being immediately connected through your phone or through any sort of device that you have, your computer or whatever, laptop, TV, they're all smart TVs nowadays. We're constantly connected and we're constantly seeing notifications from anything, right? Apps just constantly send notifications and suck you back into the app. Like you said, what is it? Time is currency or...
Attention is currency. It literally is.
Yeah.
And all of the large companies, Instagram, Facebook, they're obviously owned by the same people. All of the social media apps, they understand that attention is currency because they can, put advertisements on particular pages, which means that your viewing time is actually money for them. So their main goal is to keep you on the application. They don't really care about much else. And obviously selling your information to the government. But that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing, yeah. But yeah, so I guess to do with that, feeling like we're constantly connected, and obviously more kids coming through now being connected to their phones more and more and more, they're more intertwined into this whole connected world where we're actually not as connected because it's all through your phone screen. And I feel like your mental health can really take a hit if you're constantly just focused on the internet and focused on people on there that are doing better than you or people who are doing other things that seem interesting or whatever it may be. And it's very easy to compare yourself to these people, right? Something that I've done, something that you've done as well. Like everyone, I'm pretty sure, would have done it at some point if they see a friend from school and they're married or they've got a kid or they've done this, they've got a house. It's natural for people to compare themselves or think, oh, well, where am I now? And maybe even question where their lives are. So I guess maybe the first point that maybe we could talk about is just trying not to compare yourself to these other people, right? So trying to actually stay in your own lane and focus on what you're doing right and how you can progress to your goals, not to these other goals or to the perception of what other people have about someone else, just focusing on yourself and what makes you happy kind of thing. So... I'll let you talk because I've been talking the whole time. But do you want to add on that? Do you feel like that is...
Well, yeah, I suppose this is really what centers around the whole thing is that, the whole social media mental health thing, we have the highest rates of depression, the highest rates of, disconnection. And as a lot of, famous researchers say that the opposite of addiction is connection, right? So there's the highest addiction rates ever because people are falsely connected. For those that are only listening, I'm doing them little finger quotes.
Yeah.
Falsely connected because, they have this sense of connection through social media, but it's not actual connection, right? Yeah. You can actually get some connection. I'm constantly talking to people throughout the day on my mobile, but you can tell, it doesn't take an idiot to tell that it's not real. You're not actually looking. So I honestly try and send video messages a lot of the time, which is just a little bit more of a connection. Yeah. And it's more fun. I mean, for those that want to try that, just try that, send video messages to people and get them to send that back. Again, that's a whole other little weird tip of gold there. But yeah, I guess the main thing is that as humans, and I always try and bring everything back to the caveman days as such, to our more primal brains, which honestly was not that long ago. Yeah. Comparing ourselves to each other, this is something that we've been blessed with. This is something that is a part of our brain for a reason. It's there to help us evolve, essentially, because, in the caveman days, if you are looking at Robbo, for example, and he's lifting more rocks than you, or, he's killing more saber-toothed tigers than you, perhaps not, but, perhaps not, some kind of animal, for example, chickens, and bringing them back to the tribe. And obviously he's more popular with the ladies and he gets fed better and that kind of thing. Then you compare yourself to that, which is not that much of a difference to yourself, but it makes you push yourself and grow a little bit further as a human. Yeah. The problem is, in this day and age, which again, isn't that far from that time, is that, this is even not as much of an issue maybe 40 years ago. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Is that we can compare ourselves to people with millions or billions of followers.
Yeah.
And we're not meant to have millions and billions of followers. I think we can only really remember up to 100 people in our lives or something like that, because we're supposed to be surrounded by a small tribe of people, which is obviously like the best form of connection that we can have. And B, I mean, like when you're comparing yourself to someone with something like that, with millions of people following them, then obviously you're going to feel like absolute trash.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why don't I have this many people following me or this many likes on a particular photo? And it's or even you just see someone that is more successful in you in a particular field.
Definitely, yeah.
And again, it's your mind's job to compare those around you so that you can push yourself to be better. But the thing is, they are like 15 steps ahead of you and 10 or 15 years of life experience ahead of you, and they're just doing a completely different thing to you. Essentially, everyone's in a completely different position, so that when you actually compare yourself to them, it's not really a real life comparison that you're making. It's just like, it's just not real. But we don't recognize that part of it. We just recognize that we're not enough, and we're not good enough, and we're not doing enough, and other people are better than us. You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah. And it's interesting because like one saying that I guess I have, which does touch on that, is this whole idea of like staying in your lane, which is quite a common saying, but I guess that really applies to you comparing yourself to other people who are like directly in your space. So if you are starting a business or you're interested in a particular whatever category or art or something, and you see someone who's doing the exact same thing, whether it's like, for me, if they're doing drones, for example, and I see people doing drone content and I see that they're doing significantly better than me, I think it, again, is to do with like managing your ego and kind of pulling yourself back and going, well, I'm on my own path. This is my lane that I'm on. I have other factors around me that are affecting the situation or whatever, or could be changing the way I'm going about it. And it's hard not to just go, well, they're doing better than me, so why bother, or whatever else. But I think it really is important just to like compare to yourself from yesterday, or talk about what you did right yesterday and how you can improve on that today and how you can better yourself today. And I think trying to challenge yourself and better yourself is a lot more productive for your mental health than comparing to other people, or even talking, to a friend and having them talk so positively about another channel or something else, and then you kind of get lost into the mindset of like, oh, well, because like for me, for example, I have a lot of people who would give me advice on things like, oh, well, you should have done this, or you should do this, or do this, or whatever, for like many different decisions that I've made throughout my life. And
because you generally make really bad decisions.
And I need people, because otherwise, mate, I wouldn't even be here. I'd just be dust on the table. You'd just be talking to dust.
I'm surprised you are here.
Yeah, well, same here, and same with you with your sickness. But anyway, so like those kind of like criticism's great, right? And people giving you advice is fantastic. But I think also you've got to be mindful in yourself that you've got to have some sort of idea of where you want to go, because if you've got 5 or even just one person saying to you, you should do this, you should do this, then it's going to then make the process a lot harder, because then you're going to be questioning this and that. So for me, like I've found myself, if someone's asking me to do something, or they say, mate, you should have done this, I'll always take it on board and I'll think about it and I'll process it. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't align with where I was going or how I feel, then that will kind of just sit in the back of my mind kind of thing. Because I've found that if you don't kind of progress forward, then you'll just be stagnant. So like for me, if I'm not happy with one of my videos, I could be such a perfectionist and keep going back and back and back. And then I wouldn't produce a video every week. I'd probably do one every fortnight or something. So for me, it's kind of like I'll get to a point where I'm happy, and then I'll release my content out there and then move on to the next project. That's just the way that I've done it. Because again, like we're in a world of just immediate connection. So I've just got to pump as much content as I can out and try to get my name out there as such. So.
Well, I mean, firstly, perfection doesn't exist, or art is never finished, as they say.
No, it's all subjective.
So, that as well, yeah. But you could just literally spend hours and hours and hours and hours on a video, and it could get seen by one person, or it could get seen by a million people. Mm-hmm. But regardless, sometimes those extra tiny little bits don't really help. Like, you have to be self-aware enough. Yep. Again, that's a whole another topic. But going back to the comparing yourself to people. Like another huge part of that is that often, and obviously we all know this, is that people present their best selves or the coolest thing, that like the one part of their week that they post out on Instagram, this is the coolest thing that happened to me. So you're only seeing the the insights into people that are just like these amazing things. And
Yep.
even though we fundamentally know these things, it's a very obvious thing. And everyone says it, it's like not this hidden thing.
Yeah.
But it's still hard to overcome that because we never see the bad side of people. And, like there's a lot of people that are more not genuine, open, transparent in their lives, and they tend to be the more popular influencers as such. But even then, I feel like they still don't show absolutely everything. While they can be a little bit more vulnerable, they definitely don't show all of the horrible negative stuff in their life, and they're still posting more positive content than negative.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've had a few real life examples of this recently where, you compare yourself, or even just you look at someone who's in a completely different field to you and they're just doing so much better. They have millions of followers, they have this, they have that. And it just looks like, the way they're shaping people's perceptions through the internet, it looks like that they're just this amazing entity that, they're living the dream life and you want that life. They've got a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. But then you meet them, whether they're a music producer or a YouTuber or a this or a that, and you find out that they don't actually have all of the things that you really want. And this, again, this takes a lot of self-awareness for you to really not push and find the negative things about people, but just realize that people aren't living this dream life. They're just making it seem that way, and something that we do as well, something that everyone really does on the internet, because obviously you want people to look at the positive things that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be like, anyway, the examples that we could just go on forever. More often than not, you actually meet these people that you idolize or think are in a better position to you. And while they've got this one, maybe two, maybe three things that you think are really cool that you don't have, you look at it from an objective point of view and you realize that they actually aren't very fulfilled, or they don't have as many deep connections and friends, or they don't have as much money as it seems that they have, or there's so many other factors, and all you have to do is really just spend a little bit of time with that person for you to see that they're just another person with human, everything. Limitations,
everything,
And they, feel like trash the same amount of time that you feel like trash, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there is the point of, if you're like some famous Instagram model, you can just have all the money in the world and you're financially free as such, and you can do whatever you want with your time. And then I suppose that is something to be aspired to.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't mean that they're fulfilled.
No, that's it.
It doesn't mean that they're living this dream life. And in fact, you could be living your absolute dream life with 0 followers.
That's exactly right, yeah.
And this is the base that we need to kind of find and get back to as a society. And this is what I try to do myself, is just realize that, hey, here I am living a life that I think is grounded in my values and passions. And then you go online and, I'm not the best at it. No one's the best at it. Everyone compares themselves. As I said, this is a part of nature. But it's like we just have to do our best to be objective about it and make sure that we're not always doing that thing.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool to push yourself forward, but as soon as it starts getting you down, you need to be self-aware enough and realize that, because it will take you down real quick.
Oh, it will, for sure. And I think maybe gratitude is a key thing then. So like you said, you're happy in your life of what you're doing. And like you even mentioned, someone with 0 followers may feel extremely fulfilled because they have a close family, close friends, they have a job they enjoy, whatever. So I think just being grateful is probably one of the key things. So the first thing that we mentioned early on was not comparing yourself to other people. I think that's a key thing. And I guess it's just for people out there listening on the podcast or watching. And then I think gratitude, which we've touched on in other podcasts, but I think that can really keep you grounded. Being grateful for what you actually have can show you that, it's not that bad. Why am I comparing myself to someone else? I don't know about their life. They may have some factors that are extremely full on, and I wouldn't even wish on my worst enemy kind of thing that they're trying to deal with. So, you never know. And like you said, the internet and having a social platform where people can post their best moments, you're only getting a snapshot of their week, of their month, whatever. It's a small moment that they decided to share because the lighting was right and they looked great, that and they were happy they were on stage or whatever. But throughout the rest of the week, they may have had a terrible, breakup or terrible things with their friends, but they don't show that. Not saying that you should be posting that online, because that's another conversation. I think that's really bad, to be extremely open about personal stuff and post it for the entire world, because then something that I've learned early on is when you post something on the internet, it will be there forever. Even if you delete it, someone can save that and then hold on to that forever and re-upload it later on.
I'm real worried about the younger generations.
Yeah, so be careful what you post. Think about it before you post it.
Even on Snapchat, kiddies.
Yeah, even on Snapchat, because people can screenshot it and then send it. So yeah, I guess gratitude is a big thing. But yeah,
undervalued. It's an undervalued thing.
For sure. Yeah.
And the other thing, just like hold that thought.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, you're not also saying assume that there's extremely negative things going on in everyone's life.
No.
Just remember at the forefront of your mind that you do not have the full story.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You're only seeing 5% of their actual experience of life.
That's it.
Continue.
Well, I wasn't really going to go anywhere. I was kind of just bluffing, but I kind of did have a bit of an idea, just to talk about my own experiences with mental health and social media. So when I started my YouTube journey as such, I connected with like a lot of different people, had some really great friendships, quotation marks, air quotes. But these people, they kind of disappeared because what happened was we created content together, then they started picking up, they started getting a lot more traction than me, and then it's happened about 3 or 4, maybe 5 times now where these people have then got a lot bigger than me and then kind of forgotten about me, right? And that's a real big hit on your ego, on your own self-worth, me thinking like, well, am I not producing content that's good enough for these people to want to connect with? Are they too busy now? And again, I don't know the whole picture. So one thing that I had to do was just try to go, well, it's happened for whatever reason. It's out of my control now. If they're not going to talk to me, if they're not going to reply, I'm not going to be crazy and continuously contact these people. I'm just going to move on and find people in my life. And at that time, that was when I started finding good friends. And then I just figured out that my YouTube stuff, you know, I'd work on that and just keep improving as I could. But that took a big hit to my self-worth and my mental health, because I just was comparing myself to people who I was literally working with who were smaller than me, who then got bigger than me within a space of a couple of months. And that's hard to kind of take, but it was something that I had to kind of learn early on that this is going to happen. And then when Instagram came around, I found myself just really trying to connect with people on a one-on-one level. So going on their page, commenting on their stuff, liking. And I would see people within the tech space who were bigger than me, getting more exposure. But I found myself later on, so this is in hindsight now, probably like however many years Instagram came after I was doing YouTube, I then noticed that kind of I had a different mind state at that point. I had a different look on life. And I just found myself just trying to connect with these people, not even trying to collaborate with them, not even trying to give them anything or get something from them. I was just trying to connect with them and find any wisdom I could from them, you know, even asking them questions about how they had got to this position or what change they had done that they noticed was really helping them grow. Just trying to find wisdom from people, really. And I found that was a nicer way to go about it. And I just really had to limit that comparison thought in my mind. I really had to just go, okay, you know, they're doing better than me in an objective numbers game, but I'm happy with my balance in my life. I'm happy with what I'm doing with my studies, the gym, my friends. So as a whole, I was happy with the balance, which I think the balance is more important than the perception or what you're putting out on the internet as such. Having a good connection and in life is a lot more important, and gratitude, and I think would be a lot more important than just being a famous person with no connection.
Absolutely.
Because you'd just be, who would you open up to? Who would you connect with? Or,
it's lonely at the top, as they say.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But I mean, as you mentioned, like, I guess this is a way of like, you know, trying to provide value to other people before thinking about what you can get out of someone. And this is obviously, again, going back to our fulfillment podcast, that's going to be a much more fulfilling way to connect with people.
Yeah.
Instead of going into a situation of any kind thinking, what can I get out of this? What am I going to get out of this? Which we're taught to do from a young age. Like, how does the world interact with us?
Yeah.
In the context of ourselves. Is, you know, what can I bring to them? Like, and if you just completely forget about the other thing, you will actually get way more out of everything, I find, than if you have any kind of mindset of what am I going to get out of this? And again, this is this natural instinct for what am I going to get out of this? Because I need to survive and I need, you know, the fruits of my labor.
For sure.
But if you go into it with the mindset, completely forget about that, what can I bring to this person? Then, you're going to have a much bigger like return on investment as such. But going back to what you were saying there, people like, you know, they overtake you. That is another huge kind of untalked about part of social media and mental health, is that you can have real life friends and then all of a sudden they get thousands more followers than you and they've completely forgotten about you. And it's super important to remember, because this has happened to me a few times recently as well, is that no matter how much you give to a person, no matter how much you provide value to them or have a deep like connection or relationship with them, people people do not owe you anything.
No.
People do not owe you anything. And at any point, you could wake up and they could be thousands more followers than you, and they have completely forgotten about you because they have all these fans that are, uplifting their ego and that kind of thing, and they don't even realize it, and they've convinced themselves that they're this down-to-earth human being, but they actually just have this huge ego, and they can't get over it, and all of a sudden they've forgotten about you, and what kind of value can you provide them because you've got less followers than them. It's like this super deep kind of thing that you just dive into and you don't realize about, but you have to keep in mind that no matter what, at any point, people don't owe you anything.
That's
right?
it.
Because they can just get bigger than you and forget about you. And this is a big thing with mental health, because you can think that you have this amazing deep connection with a human being. And then all of a sudden DanceTube.tv's on 1 million followers and MetaMind's podcast doesn't exist.
It's done, yeah.
It's entirely possible.
I'll merge it with Dan.
All right, and you just take it over.
I'll just take it over.
Kill me, hide my body somewhere in the park.
I'll still have the same setup, so you'll be sitting opposite me in spirit.
Just a sign of
just a sign,
physical like cardboard sign. It'll just be you talking like.
That would be great.
I look forward to looking at that from heaven or
you will,
wherever
mate.
I will be.
Yeah. You'll be in the TV, mate.
Yeah, no doubt.
You'll be up here. There'll be a video of you on the TV behind us or to the side of us. But yeah, that is a really, really good point. And I think, like you said, it's definitely an ego thing. So you're putting a lot of worth on followers, or putting a lot of worth on the clout or the exposure that you're getting. But you're forgetting the fact that there's a lot more to life than that. Like if you haven't got that genuine connection with people, if you don't have a good understanding of yourself as well, if you don't really control your ego and all your impulses and all your thoughts and stuff, then you're kind of just on that perpetual path to then be completely ego driven if followers are the main thing, or if whatever it may be. So.
And you can find yourself there without realizing.
That's it, yeah.
You just wake up one day and not be aware of it, and all of a sudden you're completely run by your ego.
That's it, yeah.
And this is why I told you to check out that Fire documentary, FYRE. Did you have a look at it?
It popped up, and I added it to my watch list, but I didn't watch it.
But essentially it's about this entrepreneur in America, and he's like started a couple of companies. Essentially they've all been kind of scam-based. And one of them was like he started a tech company that you can book famous musicians through, essentially on an app if you want to book them on a particular party. But to launch the app, he started a music festival. It was this really high class exclusive like music festival, and it was like really expensive for tickets and all this kind of thing. And it just did not happen. Like it was, you have to watch it. It's really engaging. It's but he's just a ridiculous scam artist. But anyway, bring it back to the point is that a lot of the time it seemed like he was just doing it so that he could have this perception of himself, that he was this baller young dude that was always killing it, always rich, always had to rock up somewhere in a Lamborghini or something, had the best pinstripe suit and stuff like that. He was doing a lot of these things and scamming people out of money and their lives and their jobs and everything. Like poor people, like completely destroying lives everywhere.
That's ridiculous.
Just so that he could have this perception of himself that he was this sick dude that ran this Fire music festival and stuff like that. You know, that's obviously me reading into it. I don't know the whole situation. And then they mentioned a little bit of that. But it does kind of seem like that. So it's interesting like that some egos are so strong that they'll just make you do anything. And we're like, just this path of fire where you just kill everything in your path so that you can feel a particular way or perceive yourself in a particular way.
Definitely.
And this is the thing that social media conditions into us, that it's like, oh, you're not an influencer. Oh, you don't have thousands of followers. Oh, people don't like your photos 900 times. Like, who are you? What value do you actually have then? And it's this is why we have to remember that our we have to be grounded in our own values and realize what is actually valuable to us, which is real, deep human connection.
That's exactly right.
It's getting so lost in this day and age. And that thing, while it can be important to help you grow a business or as a particular tool, more often than not, it is only chasing a path of ego, and therefore there's nothing really of value there, is there?
Not at all.
It's only getting deeper and deeper, isn't it?
Definitely. And
more social media coming out every day.
Oh, it is constantly, all the time. And
says Dan, who's on TikTok all the
and
time.
that's actually what I was going to mention. Like TikTok is an interesting thing because a lot of these other social networks, you'll see people getting famous and whatnot, and it's interesting to watch. But with TikTok, I'm seeing people who are like well underage, like 14, 15, even 13 sometimes, and I see them wearing their school uniform, doing really, really vulgar kind of performances live for the entire world to see. And then these people are getting famous, so then they're continuously pumping more and more of the same content.
From nothing of talent, might I add.
Nothing of talent at all. And it's like, that's then going to follow them. There's no way that's not going to follow them. If they've got, some of them I've seen who are local around here as well, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they continue because it's obviously building their worth, quotation marks.
Yeah, sense of self, yeah.
Sense of self, but it's not real at all.
No.
And
it's going to damage them long term.
It's going to damage them for
because
sure.
at any point that could just like disappear as well. And then they'll be like, but I had this perception of myself one time and now that's gone. And you're suddenly in this confused state where you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
This is why you need to know who you are before you go and put yourself out there on these social media apps.
100%, yeah.
And you have to have this sense of self-awareness that like it's most of the time destructive and, you know, it can be a creative outlet and everything and very, very productive actually, but it's a lot to do with how you perceive it and how you perceive yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a point I was going to make. I hope it comes back as I'm saying it. But it was about not the gratitude part of things.
I mean, we do harp on about gratitude a lot, but I think we will continue forever because it's ridiculously important and undervalued, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to wrap it up, so make this last point.
Well, with ego, one thing I was thinking was you were saying before about if you know, someone's ego could become too powerful as such and it just continues feeding into what's worthwhile in their life or valuable and they just keep pushing.
Just like Anakin in Star Wars.
Yeah, that like perpetual negative motion as such. But one thing I found interesting, I don't know why I picked up on it, but you said that the ego could become too strong or you know, or the ego's gone too far or whatever. I think that everyone's ego, I think your or my ego could be as powerful as the person who, you know, is a millionaire, a tycoon, but it's the fact that these people potentially haven't tapped their ego, right? So it's an untapped ego.
People aren't aware of it, yeah.
No.
Everyone has an ego.
That's
it's a
exactly
necessary
right.
thing.
Yeah.
But most people just aren't aware of their own ego at all, let alone trying to actually push to minimize its, you know, a lot of time it's trying to protect you. This is a whole other episode, is ego, right? Yeah. A lot of time it's trying to protect you, but people don't even realize that it exists and that they are not their ego.
No. And
it
could have negative consequences on their own mental health and their own progression.
So they're just acting on emotions the whole time, essentially, not any logic, no rationality there.
No.
In summary, Dan, give us a few actionable pieces of content.
Okay.
Because I need to know how I can get in this rut, how I can get out of this rut, because I'm always comparing myself to people online. What do I do, Dan?
Okay. So one key thing I think is make sure you take a break. You know, don't be on social networks all the time. It's just going to drain you. Make sure you connect with real people, connect with your family, maybe even try to connect with someone that you haven't seen in a while, you know, like try to get that genuine connection. Oh, mate. Try to get that genuine connection back. I think that's one thing.
The old dad.
Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, go for a walk, do a bit of exercise. But yeah, obviously make sure that you're getting these pieces of valuable connection before you actually put yourself out there. Because if you're going to go looking for validation on the internet, you get small hits of dopamine and serotonin, and then it will fade away, and then you have to do it again. And it's a repetitive cycle, you know?
Yeah.
So have these deep connections and relationships, and then go and put yourself out there. Or at least make sure you seek those things before you do that.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing, I guess, which we've harped on is practicing gratitude. Make sure you're grateful for the position you're in. Make sure you're grateful for where you've come from. You know, be mindful of where you started and where you are now. Reward yourself for the small steps. And also try to connect with people online as well in a genuine manner. Don't go in looking for something or expecting something. Go in to genuinely connect and maybe even just to elicit some wisdom or knowledge out of these people. You know, try to grow with these people. Don't just constantly try to compare yourself.
I guess one thing that I think if you take one thing away from this podcast, it should be that you just need to be a little bit self-aware of your actual social media usage, you know?
Definitely.
Like, yeah, think about all the things we've talked about today, but if you just actually observe yourself and every time you open your phone, why are you doing that? And like, what are you actually doing there? And, you know, just observe your usage of social media and what actual role it has in your life.
Definitely.
Thanks very much for watching episode 4, guys. Apologies about my horrible voice.
Oh, I think it's fine, mate.
And apologies about Dan. He's generally most of the time annoying and doesn't offer value.
My horrible co-guest.
But he's here with us every week, so unfortunately we're stuck with him.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for watching.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Keep tuned to the YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, appreciate all the support we've been getting so far. A lot of it, actually.
Yeah, really appreciate it and really enjoying this process.